Some advice that I would tell myself in my 20s. I think the first that comes to mind is something that like my mom, my grandmother, they always taught me. And it was that like anytime I was going through something, whether emotional, whether we was having a financial problem at home, she always encouraged me to like, son, get up, all right? Always clean your room, always go for a walk, make yourself look appropriate to the world because you don't have to look like your circumstances. So whatever you're going through in life, get up and treat yourself well because the world is still watching and not everybody has to, physically see what you're going through. That one stands out the most to me. Never look like your circumstances. Another one that I think would have revolutionized my 20s is that, I think I would have spent less time trying to chase women, chase a lifestyle, chase my homeboys and who was cool and who was not cool. And I would have spent that time actually building myself. I would have been learning so many more skills. I would have been learning editing or coding. I would have been learning real valuable skills, a firefighter, something that would earn me more money because most people, we are taught to like, just, have fun in your 20s, date and do X, Y, and Z. And like, we don't start taking life serious until we're about 30 years old or 25, 27. Then we start to try to start to tighten up. And I'm always like, damn, imagine if I had started that process at 18, I would be so far ahead of my peers, my friends, or everybody else, or what America expected of me. Another thing, I think it's very important as men, again, the younger that you start, is to learn how to live on your own, all right? For so long, we were taught or put in a system, essentially, like you had to go to school, you were put in a community that you had no really like choice you had no decision making in that process. But as you become a man, it's important that you learn to adopt maximum responsibility. And what that does is it gives you meaning. It is what sustains you in your life. All right. It's meaning. It's not money. It's not women. It's not clothes. It's not cars. It's none of that shit. It's finding fulfillment, finding meaning. And the way you do that is by adopting maximum responsibility. How much load can you lift from society? All right. Whatever that looks like for you, I want you to try and adopt maximum responsibility. And one of those is, again, living on your own, finding your own first apartment, putting down your own deposit, furnishing your own place. And then more importantly is learning to live with yourself. And I always say that you're not by yourself, you are with yourself. And the moment that perspective shifts for you, your life will start to unravel with money, with women, with your emotions, and so many just areas of your life. Most men never take the time to sit with themselves. We always got to be with our homeboys watching sports. We got to be at the shorty crib. Like we always doing it for the gram. Do it for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Do it for your family. Do it for you. And again, another quote that I always talk about is that a man that cannot sit with himself, he will never be able to sit with his family. It's impossible. So live on your own at least once in your lifetime. Another piece of advice that I think would have revolutionized my 20s is understanding that we're not just a physical being, right? Sure, being in a gym is great and you look great, but what's being fit and looking good if you have no spirituality? All right, you're not connected to God. Now, I'm not the most religious person. I'm not sitting here telling you to read the Bible every day. But at some point in your life, understanding that there is something higher than yourself gives you purpose. It also gives you just, it allows you to be able to take on or understand life. So, yeah, you got your physical, you got your spiritual, and then I would say the third one is just like your soul. Now, soul and spirituality differ a little bit. I think spirituality is more closely related to, religion and like higher power and energy, whereas your soul is now your connection to yourself and how you are intertwined or in the world. An example of that is like taking time to read poetry and feeding your soul. I think that helps. Most men never take time to read or tap into their soul. And we think that it's just the physical. Or you got some people like your pastors that you see online who are just spiritual, but they don't work out. You get what I'm saying? Once you understand that you are all three, then you become a complete man. You can't have one without the other. What else would have really changed my 20s? I think. Oh, I got something. I think something else that would have changed my 20s that I still haven't fully done to this day is having the balls, having the guts to move to a city in which I grew up in. If I could have done that differently, I would have moved to another city, and at least had that experience to say that I've tried and I went through something and I learned how to adapt to somewhere else other than the comfort of my home. And I think that's important because in order to ever be successful, right, in life, you're going to have to develop a high tolerance for stress, a high tolerance for adaptability. And that moving to just like another city where you're not comfort, it puts a certain level of stress on you. And again, if you want to be successful, you're going to learn how to manage or like deal with that stress. And move into a new city, it just, again, takes you outside of your comfort zone. And you don't have that luxury to rely on your family. And like when you feel lonely, you can go and hang out with your homeboys at the local bar. This now you got to go out and make new friends. You got to go out and like try new shit. And I think any man that can make connections and like push himself outside of what he's comfortable or where he's comfortable, it changes the entire trajectory of your life. And so I still haven't done it, but I know that moving would have changed how I operate to people. Because I stay here in DC, which is a very, it's small. And so like everybody knows everybody. And I never really got a taste of living in a different city. And I'll give you guys one more thing that I think would have completely revolutionized my 20s. And that is learning to say no. I always felt an obligation to do things that my parent wanted me to do, that my homeboys wanted me to do, maybe a girl that I was dating wanted me to do, and even society wanted me to do. And I never took the time to think about what I wanted. And so I would sacrifice my happiness for the happiness of others. And I can honestly say that my entire life, it changed when I learned to say no, when I learned to respond to text messages when I had the capacity, not when I felt that somebody needed a response from me. I think that changed the game for me. When somebody called and say, hey, do you want to do this today? And I genuinely or really didn't want to do it. Now I'm able to be like, you know what? I don't want to do that, or I don't have the time to do that, and I don't feel bad about it. And that gave me so much time, so much happiness back to my life. And I realized that real friends and real family, they understand and they're not offended when you say no, because they understand who you are and that you have to prioritize yourself. And again, every time you say yes to somebody else, you're telling yourself, or inevitably, you're telling yourself no. And so learn to say no, learn to set boundaries. And I think you'll just go far in life, or further, because you take back your own peace, your happiness. But that's all I got for you guys. I hope this video helps.